pelvic floor 100%. That task does not demand 100% of your effort. I'll give some examples of myself. My pelvic floor tends to be reflexively, work pretty well. Early postpartum, not so much, but once I trained it, cool. My abs, on the other hand, struggle. And I think that's just my long history of back pain. So I have, for those of you who are new, I have a leg length discrepancy and scoliosis, and so my abs don't coordinate quite as well. Pelvic floor tends to be okay. So if I'm picking up my son who's 30 pounds or moving around my patients during the day, their limbs, whatever, I don't think about my abs or my pelvic floor because I've trained them to do what I need them to do in those moments, and I don't need to do that anymore. Today I just did some deadlifting for my workout at my probably 70% of my max right now. I did engage my TA first. I did lats, TA, a little bit of pelvic floor as I exhaled. However, during this lift, it still wasn't my 100% max effort, so there was no need for me to maximally contract everything. Even so, even though it was a higher weight that I'm used to lifting and that I'm working towards doing comfortably, it still doesn't require 100% of my contraction effort. So for those of you who are going around your day-to-day life and you're just way over clenching and gripping and all those things, I encourage you to grade the amount of contraction that you're doing to the task. And if you can't figure that out quite yet, start with 25%. So if you don't know what 25% is, think of your pelvic floor like an elevator. You're going to contract all the way up to level 4, and then you're going to relax. And then you're going to go halfway to level 2, relax, and then contract just to level 1, and that's 25%. Questions? Let me know. I'm going to answer some of your questions about my post from today before I do poll results. So, does your pelvic floor automatically activate when you exhale? No, just an exhale alone does not engage the pelvic floor muscles. So diaphragm is here, pelvic floor is here. When we inhale, our diaphragm drops, the pelvic floor reflexively lengthens. When you exhale, your diaphragm goes back to its resting state, and your pelvic floor goes back to its resting state. That's not a contraction, that's just a resting state. So if you forcefully exhale, that might engage your pelvic floor automatically, or you might improperly do that and engage your upper abs first. So one thing that you can do to check this is to lie on the ground and put your phone next to you, and then do a forceful exhale and see what your stomach looks like. So from the side, a forceful exhale should look like you're engaging your lower abs first and then coming up towards the rib cage. If when you forcefully exhale and you just see the ribs come down and the lower belly come up, that's not great pressure management, right? So you can do that little test for yourself and see. Definitely not. I train this in people of all ages, totally fine. And this mechanism that occurs, or this change that occurs, can happen at any phase in life, right? So if someone comes into me and they've had a disc herniation in their back, or they've had lumbar surgery or something, we're retraining this also. And then think about all of the patients who have stress incontinence, who've had it for decades and didn't know about pelvic floor therapy, and finally their doctor referred them to us. Similar mechanism, right? And so I'm retraining these people on pressure management and how to have that anticipatory contraction. So yeah, it's definitely not too late. Exactly. So you are reminding your body, hey, you're supposed to do this before I move my body. And it's a great way to just remind yourself, remind your nervous system, oh yeah, I'm supposed to support in this way before a larger movement occurs. Great question. So if you have more weakness in your pelvic floor, it makes sense that you might need to do more of a contraction than someone who has really good muscle and fascial support of the pelvic floor. For someone who has 1 out of 5 pelvic floor strength, you might want to also really utilize that lower TA contraction to get more pelvic floor contraction. those two muscle groups work together. You can't get 100% of one without the other kicking in and vice versa. So for this person, I'd recommend you do like a little TA also, maybe even before you do pelvic floor, and see how that works. For most people, they just start to realize, oh, I didn't have to consciously contract in that moment. And they begin to kind of learn to trust their body, and they can let go of needing to feel like they're clenching and protecting. But I realize that in this particular population with postpartum prolapse, it's a total mind game, and it's really hard to trust your body again. And so, yeah, maybe it's a little bit of trial and error. Like, try a movement and see, did you feel your pelvic organs shift down? Did you feel heaviness in that moment? Or did you feel like, no, I did that just fine. Like, I felt well supported by my body. And just keep in mind that as your activities change or the demand on your body changes, you're lifting more, your kid is growing, you might need to revisit it at times. But it's just a good skill to be working on. No, definitely not. You do not need to contract, like consciously contract your pelvic floor and your TA when you're holding your kid. Absolutely not. Your body will contract in the way that it needs to support you in those moments. But adding that additional contraction to the closed system might actually make your symptoms a little bit worse, instead of allowing your body to compensate for that load that you're carrying. Definitely work on the strength of the rest of your body if you've got a really heavy toddler like this that you're carrying around. If your hips aren't really strong, your legs aren't strong, your abs aren't strong, carrying a toddler is going to be more of a load and more of a burden on your pelvic floor. So remember that your training needs to be harder than your life. If your exercises are not harder than your daily life, you need to up your exercises. One more thing on the strengthening piece that I think really helps people like grasp how important it is. Your muscles contract. If I pick something up, so like my cat is right there. If I pick up my cat, my bicep, so the arm muscle right here, the muscle fibers that will contract to pick her up are just the right number that are necessary for the task. Not all of them are going to be recruited and contracted. If I lift a 30-pound dumbbell, my absolute maximum effort with my bicep, all of the fibers are going to contract because that would be really challenging for me. So I need more of the muscle to contract, okay? So now imagine your core, your abs are super, super weak and you're doing a heavier task. All of those muscle fibers are going to want to recruit and help you. That's exhausting, right? So that's exhausting. Your muscles will likely fatigue by the end of the day if you're carrying kids around and doing all the things. But back to the bicep example, if my bicep had more muscle mass and was stronger, then that 30-pound dumbbell would only recruit half or 75% of the fibers instead. And the same idea goes with your abdominal muscles and your pelvic floor. The stronger, the more muscle mass that you have there, the less fibers are needed to be recruited for your daily activities. And overall, that's just less demand on your system as a whole, right? If you're doing an activity, or lifting your kid, whatever, and you're feeling symptomatic in that moment, so the tampon sensation is there, the heaviness is there, some people can actually feel the organs like shift a bit, or you might just feel like a heaviness in the pelvic floor, the perineum like drops a little bit, you probably didn't do enough of a contraction. So next time, increase it a little bit. It doesn't mean go from 25 to like 100 just because you had a little bit of a symptom resurgence, but you might just have to kind of grade that and figure out where you're at with those certain activities. And then I also challenge you to think about what the rest of your body was doing while you were performing that activity. Were you really hunched over? Were you holding your breath? Were you gripping your upper abs?
process and think about what the rest of your body was doing during that moment, it might give you an opportunity to reflect on something different that could be driving those symptoms instead of just, I didn't contract my pelvic floor hard enough. That makes sense? The other thing you can reflect on is my exercise program preparing me for this movement that I'm doing during my day? And if it's not, maybe reevaluate that.